I thought it was just another weekend, bowling, breakfast, and mother-son bonding. But one quiet night in that hotel room, something shifted inside me, and I haven't been the same since. As I stepped inside, the sight before me was utterly devastating. What transpired next will leave you in disbelief. Would you have taken the same path, or would you have fled? A journey through the shadows. Never did I imagine that I would be unveiling my story to the world. And so I find myself here. At 47, I navigate the complex terrain of life, marked by a divorce behind me, a teenage son by my side, and a daily routine that often feels unyielding. As twilight descends, I slip into my scrubs and immerse myself in the realm of nursing, embraced by the shadows of night. With each transition, I face experiences that challenge my beliefs and broaden the horizons of my compassion. The strange hours, the unyielding weariness, and the weight of those encounters slowly seep into my very being. Beyond the boundaries of my professional life, it often feels like a monotonous loop, departing for work, returning home, striving for rest, and then setting out on the same path again. In the midst of the routine and trials that life presents, I have discovered a flicker of hope in an unforeseen domain. Engaging in the sport of bowling. Though it might seem ordinary, reminiscent of the uncomplicated joys often associated with the tranquil days of our grandparents, it evolved into my refuge, welcoming a new wave of excitement. Last year, I joined a local league, primarily to fill my time. To my astonishment, I discovered that I thrived in it, even securing a place in an official tournament 3 hours distant, an occasion for which I had dedicated months of steadfast practice. In that ephemeral moment, it felt as though I was clutching a shard of my former self, a vibrant echo of who I had been before the divorce. Yet, the thrill was swiftly subdued by the responsibilities that accompany parenthood. My teenage son, wrestling with his own rebellious inclinations, needed more attention than ever. With striking clarity, I remembered the final time I had left him to his own devices. Upon my return, I found that a friend had inadvertently caused chaos in our garage in an attempt to entertain him. Steadfast in my choice to sidestep a comparable experience, and with the tournament approaching, I selected a route that genuinely embodied my commitment to my dreams while respecting my responsibilities as a mother. I arranged for us to savor a weekend at a hotel near the tournament venue. The hotel boasted an enchanting indoor pool, a charming retreat that provided a momentary respite from the chaos of our everyday lives. As the first light of dawn broke, I stirred from my slumber. After a gentle stretch, I moved closer to rouse my son from his deep sleep. He curled up under the blankets, reluctant to leave the warm sanctuary of his bed. With a soft yet firm assurance, I informed him that breakfast awaited. A tranquil moment lingered before we resumed our distinct journeys. As I sensed the gentle whisper of his thoughts meandering towards pancakes, it dawned on me that he was awake, filled with a subtle thrill of his own. We made our way to the hotel restaurant, where a timeless breakfast buffet welcomed us warmly. The room radiated an enduring allure, embellished with vintage treasures, where pancakes rested luxuriously bathed in syrup, a medley of freshly crafted omelets and eggs enticed the senses, and a modest assortment of crispy bacon rounded out the inviting scene. My son piled his plate high with pancakes, each bite a gentle reminder of simple pleasures, while I opted for a meticulously prepared omelet. We remained in a peaceful hush, relishing the calm of the morning and the uncomplicated joy of being together. After we completed our meal, I asked if there was anything he wanted to do before I needed to return to the bowling alley. His eyes glimmered with enthusiasm as he recounted tales of a nearby mall that contained a specialty store he had yearned to discover. The enchantment of uncovering a long elusive game stirred something deep within him, and for a brief instant, we both basked in the excitement of an approaching adventure, a welcome distraction from the tumult of our everyday existence. In a world that often reverberates with the dullness of a scratched record, mornings like these stand as a striking reminder that life persistently reveals moments of unexpected beauty. In these cherished moments, tucked away between the demanding hours of toil, the fleeting pauses at the bowling alley, and the cozy breakfasts enjoyed together, I unearthed the strength to continue onward. They stand as gentle reminders that amidst challenges, the ordinary can be sprinkled with instances of joy, hope, and the unwavering love for a son who, in his unique way, motivates me each day to keep going. As I wound my way along the twisting roads to the bowling tournament that morning, each bend symbolized a step toward reclaiming a piece of my past self, a self alive with passion and dreams rather than just duties and weariness. The tournament rose above the confines of mere competition. It served as a symbol of endurance, a tribute to the idea that even in the face of formidable obstacles, instances of victory and rejuvenation can arise. In sharing my story, I invite you to see that even within the unending demands of duty and altruism, there exists the possibility of discovering your authentic self in the most unexpected places of life. Viewed through the prism of a passion like bowling, or the comforting delight of a shared breakfast that nourishes the soul, these instances intricately craft the story of our existence, reminding us that every day is filled with the potential for renewal, a journey characterized by its highs and lows. Once, I was firmly convinced that sharing my personal journey was a path I would never traverse. Yet, here I find myself, uncovering the complex twists and turns that have defined my life. Recently, a day filled with unexpected events reminded me of the weight of responsibility intertwined with the bright flashes of joy that invigorate my soul. As a parent, I sought to provide my son with every conceivable opportunity, even when it meant making sacrifices that challenged both my financial stability and my emotional resilience. A simple indulgence at the shopping center, the day revealed a tender reflection of my son's character, considerate and seldom insistent. He nonchalantly revealed that he had been envisioning a particular game. We ventured to the mall on a lively afternoon, where the corridors teemed with a throng of individuals and the energetic hum of everyday existence surrounded us. The way before us was clear and undeniable. GameStop. As he stepped inside, a glimmer of excitement danced in his eyes when he discovered an old used game, its price intriguingly marked at almost $60. The cost took me by surprise, surpassing the range I usually found comfortable, yet his fervor was undeniable. The genuine warmth of his smile made every sacrifice feel like a worthwhile pursuit. With a heavy heart and a deep sense of obligation, I reached for my wallet, paid for the game, and treasured the bright spark of gratitude and happiness reflected in his gaze. Moments of connection. After our excursion to GameStop, we meandered for hours through the lively mall. As we wandered by the shop fronts, the lively crowd enveloped us, igniting a flood of treasured memories with every step and shared look, whisking us away to a time unblemished by the challenges of youth. The invaluable, untouched moments we shared exclusively were undeniably priceless. It evoked memories of our earlier days together, rekindling the warmth and affection I had feared were diminishing with time as he grew older. A challenging night unfolded at the bowling alley. As the evening progressed, I found myself once again at the bowling alley. Rejuvenated by the day's connection with my son, I felt energized and ready to give my all at the tempo. Despite my renewed vigor, the unrelenting fatigue and mounting pressure weighed heavily on my performance. I descended from a realm of promise, having once secured second place, only to conclude my journey in fifth. The impact was profound, and though frustration threatened to take hold, I reminded myself that setbacks were simply transient episodes. One of my colleagues from the league, Nova, emerged victorious in the tournament, and my pride in her accomplishment is immeasurable. Nova's unwavering commitment and tireless work led to a triumph that transformed into a collective celebration for everyone involved. After the awards ceremony, a small group of us decided to embark on a humble celebration. Their invitation exuded an irresistible charm, especially with a venue conveniently located just across from our hotel. An inviting warmth surrounded us as we gathered at a charming bar. Amidst the laughter, the shared memories, and the clinking of glasses, I permitted myself a moment of ease, even as I usually gravitate towards restraint that evening. I savored more than just one glass of wine, yielding to the liberating spirit of the night, a tranquil return home, and reflections beneath the stars. As the hour drew near to the early morning, I made my way back to our hotel. In the stillness of the night, my son rested peacefully in his room, the soft illumination of the TV bathing his tranquil face in a comforting light. A soothing wave of calm and deep maternal love washed over me as I quietly closed his door and made my way to the bathroom for a quick change into my soft pajamas. As I returned to my sanctuary, I settled into the comforting embrace of my bed, wrapping the covers around me while I attempted to lose myself in the soft glow of a movie flickering gently on the screen. Yet, sleep eluded me, remaining just out of reach. As I pondered the day's adventure, my mind meandered through the intricate weave of experiences: the escapade at the mall, the exhilaration of the game, the emotional ups and downs at the bowling alley, and the jubilant celebration that provided a brief escape from my concerns. In the quiet embrace of the early morning, shortly after 3 a.m., the gentle stirring of my son in his bed drew my attention. It became clear to me that every challenge faced and each sacrifice made was fundamentally a pledge, not just to his future, but also to my own journey of self-rediscovery. In the hushed embrace of that late hour, with the soft murmur of the television as my only companion, I discovered within myself a solemn vow to cherish every ephemeral moment we experienced together. I made a commitment to extract lessons from each obstacle, turning them into building blocks on my path of self-improvement. Amidst the tumult of existence, where weights bear heavily and dreams seem distant, the day unveiled a refuge for joy, connection, and the promise of future possibilities. In the stillness of that night, as I sought solace, my heart overflowed with a tender hope, a hope that each day, despite its challenges, carries the promise of new beginnings, unexpected victories, and the lasting bond between a parent and a child. I found myself lost in thought, wondering if he would ever truly become one. Maybe it was the wine, or maybe it was the solitude, but I realized I could no longer bear it. "Is there anything else you require?" I spoke without thinking. I found myself pondering if he had brought that up. No, I could merely feign that I was speaking in my sleep, yet to my astonishment, he agreed. And that's when the realization struck me. What shall I do now? That solitary word, yes, lingered in the atmosphere. An unvarnished reality that cannot be ignored. It felt as though a switch had been activated, a barrier shattered. The F's and the should have dissipated, supplanted by an uncanny sense of inevitability. I felt like an observer, detached from the very essence of my existence, witnessing my life unfold from afar. A peculiar detachment washed over me, enveloping my senses in a veil of unreality. It felt as though I was transcending my physical form, shedding the limitations imposed by morality and the weight of societal norms. In the quiet of that hour, I was overwhelmed, not by desire, but by the sheer complexity of emotions I hadn't processed. The long hours, the solitude, the sense of losing parts of myself over the years, they all converged into a moment of exhaustion and vulnerability. I stood in the doorway of his room, hesitant. Not because of him, but because of what I needed to confront within myself. My fears, my fatigue, my blurred identity. I closed the door softly, returned to my bed, and sat in silence. I realized how dangerous it was to let emotions and confusion spiral unchallenged. I reminded myself that love, true love, especially a mother's love, is defined not by closeness, but by protection, sacrifice, and self-control. I needed rest. I needed to step back. And I needed help. Real help from someone who could guide me through what I was feeling. This wasn't about him. It was about me. My history, my grief, my exhaustion, and the weight of doing everything alone. The next morning arrived with a pale orange hue peeking through the curtains. I awoke feeling heavy, not just physically but emotionally. Yet beneath that weight was something else. A strange sort of clarity. Not peace, not yet, but the first fragile step toward it. As I dressed and prepared to leave for the final rounds of the tournament, I paused by the mirror. I barely recognized the woman staring back. Not because of age or weariness, but because of the complexity behind her eyes. She had loved, lost, given, sacrificed, and somewhere along the way, forgotten how to rest. But I would reclaim that. Later, as I walked to the bowling alley, each step echoed like a quiet promise. A promise to move forward differently. A promise to reconnect with my own needs in healthy, meaningful ways. A promise to honor the deep love I hold for my son, not by collapsing under pressure, but by protecting him and myself from the shadows of confusion. The tournament that day wasn't just a competition. It was a reminder that growth requires setbacks and self-awareness often comes in silence, not noise. I didn't win. I didn't place. But I walked away with something more profound than a trophy. After the tournament, we drove home. He slept most of the way, his head resting against the window, the sun warming his face. And I drove in silence, letting the hum of the road lull my thoughts into a kind of peace. I knew I had work to do, boundaries to reestablish, emotions to confront,
support to seek.
But I also knew this, that despite the chaos of life, the exhaustion, the moments of internal confusion, I was still a mother, still human,
Still trying. And
that was enough for now.